Yeah, just shirt, very simple and nice. And it's been a while since we have this kind of setup where you can see me analyzing the game, which is not really important. Seeing me or not doesn't matter as long we analyze the game properly and we learn something from the games we analyze. That is more important. For today's video, we will analyze the game of the Filipino Ironman Grandmaster Joey Antonio. If you are curious why he is called the Filipino Ironman, because years ago, way back, like years before pandemic, he was so popular in chess.com. If you were active during those days, you know what I mean. He was so popular. There are too many people waiting him play, worldwide. Why? Because he was like active for 24 hours. He was playing chess for 24 hours. I'm not saying 24 hours, but almost 24 hours. And because of that popularity, or let's say because of that too much activeness playing chess online, he had a chance to play against Hikaru Nakamura. It's like a mini match against Hikaru Nakamura. And he was able to play some of the games. Very intense. He attacked and sacrificed against Hikaru Nakamura. That was intense. And speaking of attack, sacrifice, well, that is Joey Antonio for you. He is known for that dynamic and aggressive chess style. So for this game, Grandmaster Joey Antonio is playing white against Chen Haidao, playing with a black piece. Let's go e4, c5. Sicilian, very aggressive approach against e4, knight f3, d6. For d6, very versatile. You can have a dragon, or of course, it really depends on white's response. You can go here d4, just close Sicilian. But bishop b5, this is called Sicilian defense, Moscow variation. Bishop d7 covering the check, and here white can go c4. Of course, if bishop takes bishop, c takes b, just imagine the pawn here pressuring the a6 and c6, so the knight cannot go in the usual spot developing the piece, which is the c6. But Grandmaster Joey decided, okay, gotta capture your bishop. Knight takes, immediate castling. So, well, delayed castling for black, but for this kind of setup, nothing to worry, because as you can see, white still need to develop the other minor pieces. So knight f6, queen e2. The idea is not only supporting this e4, at the same time, white can go here, rook f to d1 after the d4, pressuring the d file. But let's see how Grandmaster Joey continues this game. e6, b3. So wow, that is a good idea for having this kind of long diagonal attacking, going to h8, bishop e7, now bishop b2, which is very important. If you want to prevent weaknesses, especially creating the fianchetto formation, make sure the bishop will follow after the fianchetto formation. Why? Because if, for example, you will move away your bishop away, the dark square may be the target for the attack. That would be a possible weakness for white. So bishop b2, castling, d4, opening the center, cracking the center, c takes d, knight takes d, a6, preventing the knight b5. Just imagine you have your rook d1 here, pressuring the d6, and the knight is now ready to jump here, pressuring this one, capturing. That would be a problem for black. So a6, immediate response to avoid any pressure from the knight. c4, of course, preventing the d5. Just imagine if black would go d5, then e5, knight e4, f3, knight c5. Then after of the capture, black will have this isolated pawn. Knight c3 is coming. Of course, rook a d1. So problem for black. So let's go back. So after c4, of course, black will not go d5. That would be no good for center, especially isolated pawn. Queen c7, developing the queen. At the same time, connecting the two rooks. Knight c3, the last minor piece to develop. Rook to e8. King h1. So if you want to move your f2 to f4, make sure your king will not be hit by any kind of pin. So king h1 first. Just prepare for the f4 move. Knight f8. The idea, of course, is to support the h7, and later on, if black will get a chance to jump going to g6. Very solid defense. f4. So this is Joey Antonio, very aggressive. He doesn't want to wait. And knight, f6, not because knight f8 going to d7. So knight 6 going to d7. Rook a d1. Rook a d8. So there's a tension here going on the d file. Queen h5, and this idea has a crazy idea. Why? White is allowing the g6 move. Just imagine from a1 to h8 after the g6 move. White will have some, opportunity to attack and break the king side, and f5 is also possible here. So that is the idea of queen h5. Same thing though, imagine of rook going to h3 and g3, pressuring the king side. That's too dangerous for black. So g6, that's a bait. Queen h6, bishop f6, making sure this bishop is, of course, defending the dark square, which is, just imagine if the bishop will have more control going to h8, the knight will go, let's say, sacrifice the knight to make sure that queen g7 is possible. So bishop f6, preventing the possible sacrifice of Grandmaster Joey Antonio, because this is Grandmaster Joey Antonio. He gonna sacrifice given a chance, rook f3. And speaking of sacrifice queen, black committed a, well, tremendous, well, big blunder here that gave an opportunity to Grandmaster Joey to sacrifice the queen. Can you spot? You may pause the video to analyze. Where's the queen sacrifice here? Queen takes g7, king takes g7. That is forced. And now the last move that caused Tian Haidao's resign the game, knight d5. If, for example, capture, knight f5 check, that's, of course, two pieces are checking the king, and the only good square going back to g8, knight h6 checkmate. That's beautiful. So if black would, of course, stop the diagonal e5 attacking this knight, knight takes knight, knight takes queen, pawn takes knight, knight takes rook, after rook takes check. Quality up for Grandmaster Joey Antonio. Actually, after of knight d5, black resigns because of the awkward position. There are too many weaknesses for d6 and quality up. That's a beautiful queen sacrifice after of the unexpected blunder of black.